The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
All right, welcome in to the 2023 NBA Finals Supershow. I am Subi from Theater and College Hoops. It's the Denver Nuggets. It's the Miami Heat battling for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. And it's interesting. If you look at the seeds, you'd think one team has been here more often than the other. But that's kind of been inverted here. The 8 seed Heat in the midst of an unbelievable playoff run as a franchise have been here plenty of times before. Number 1 seed Nuggets, who will be heavily favored in this series, making their finals debut. I got a great group of gentlemen here. How lucky am I? Tone Perez joining us from Sideline Summit. How are you, Tone?
Hey, I'm doing great, man. I'm happy to be here. Happy to talk some hoops from finally an unbiased point of view now that my team is out and I can just focus strictly on basketball.
From High Low Sports, Kelsey Coyne, you're going to have to keep us both in check, though, and make sure we do the neutrality here, all right? Because Tone and I are Celtics fans.
Yeah, don't worry. My co-host is actually a Heat fan, so I've been used to keeping the neutrality pretty well in this one. And don't worry, I don't like Boston sports enough to let you guys get away with too much Boston love here.
I love it. Look, yeah, just make sure to keep us in check. Now, look, this is about the Heat. This is about the Nuggets. All right, but Tone, you and I have a little bit of closure that we need to make sure we get to. And Kelsey, if you're able to aid us, please do. But man, has it set in first, Tone, for you? Has it really sunk in? Is the sting a little bit less than Memorial Day with the Celtics season ending?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was watching it with some buddies. First play of the game, when Jason Tatum rolls his ankles, I'm just kind of like, yeah, if that's just going to linger him, then like this is over, because then you got to run the offense through something else. And while a lot of people look at this team and like, oh, this is like a super stacked team, and that's like a lot of people are like, insert this player, the Celtics win championship. This is a roster built for Jason Tatum, and as much as him and Jaylen Brown play alike, he doesn't have the playmaking prowess to carry this offense without him. So I knew from there it was just going to be a tough night, and I kept noticing Robert Williams was going in and out, not as big as a factor, and still credit to the Heat, they have their fair share of injuries, but yeah, it was low expectations after Tatum hurt that ankle. I will say though, if he started the game with an and one, that place was going to go nuts, and that would have just kept going on for the entirety of everything.
Yeah, it was crushing to see, but I'm glad he fought through it. I can respect that. Kelsey, entering Game 7 and then seeing the end result, which was an ass whooping, really. Were you shocked going into exiting Game 7? Were you shocked at that result?
Absolutely. I don't think anybody was expecting that to happen. I put it on the books. I mean, for what it's worth, I don't think anybody's expecting a 20-point blowout, 10-point blowout. I don't think anybody's expecting this game to be more than 2 possessions at the highest at any point in time in any point in the game. And this is, obviously Jason Tatum with the injury. Tone's right. Like, you can't lose Jason Tatum when that's your dude. Like, that's everything. You stop running the offense through Al Horford. You stop running it through Marcus Smart. You go through Jason Tatum, and Jason Tatum's just, I hate to say it, but, one hand tied behind his back, might as well cut off a leg type of situation at that point in time. And you're trying to do your best, but then you have Jimmy McBuckets over here doing everything, giving you a 20-piece, 40-piece. At this point in time, I don't know what you can ask for. And they didn't even have everything firing on all cylinders. I mean, Bam is still missing in action. So I look at the Celtics and you kind of look at it like, yeah, obviously Jason Tatum being injured is a huge blow. But don't forget Tyler Hero was out for the Heat. And you can't use that excuse, really, when you look at your entire team. Like, Jaylen Brown is a fantastic player by his own right. He is a Batman to his own Batman in a lot of ways. Like, he is not the Robin as much when people want to say it. And you got to have that killer instinct. And Jaylen Brown, I mean, he tried. He tried to have the killer instinct. It's just not built into him the way it is in Jason Tatum. And I think, plus you have Al Horford, who at this point, I said it last year, I think Al Horford was done last year. This year, it feels like Al Horford is definitely done. Like, he'll give you spotty minutes, nothing really great, but put him on the bench, let him Udonis Haslem it. It's a struggle, especially with Robert Williams, still one of the best plus minuses of all time, not being used as much as he should. So I don't know. I look at it and it sucks that it ended that way for you guys, but from a central standpoint, like a neutral standpoint, I'm more excited to see whether a brawl breaks out in this finals. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
Hey, was it Marcus or Markeef who started that with Joker a couple of years ago?
Keith.
I was
I
it
just
was Keith,
I
right?
just hope
Yeah,
I just hope they're
Marquise.
in the stands at this point in time.
Yeah, well, he's
Whichever
got
one it is.
brothers versus brothers. Hey, we welcome in Chris Coulter as well from the Sideline Summit Show. Chris, we were just trying to lick our wounds and get some closure and get past what happened Monday night. Any thoughts, final thoughts before we head into the Nuggets Heat series? Any final thoughts from the Celtics Heat series?
I think I heard Kelsey kind of talking about on my way in. The one thing, and I told Tone, this is two things. I said two things. Robert Williams only playing 20 minutes. I mean, outside of 20 minutes a game, outside of the stomach issues he might have been having, whatever, I think he has to just play more for that team. I mean, I get what they're trying to do with the spacing with Horford, but I think Robert Williams, the rim protector, is just more important because you have more shooting. And then I told Tony this on the show the other day. I was like, Missoula waited too long to put Jason Tatum in the middle of the zone. Like, you put your best player there and you make them guard you one-on-one from there. And you make Jason Tatum the decision maker. So those are the two things that I really took away. I was kind of hoping the Celtics will win, only because I have a lot of friends who are Heat fans, not to hear this so much. But, I mean, the Heat earned that one. I mean, they almost blew it, but they did earn it.
Yeah, I think my two biggest takeaways from that series, number one, Caleb Martin. What a stud. It gradually
Awesome. He's so awesome.
He's amazing. First of all, I think he should have won Eastern Conference MVP
Yes.
over JB. But it's so depressing almost between game 3 and 4, where you start to make that maturation process of, okay, Caleb Martin's not just some guy randomly going off. At this point in the series, maybe make someone else beat you, because when Caleb Martin put up every shot, I was like, that's money. And it just continued. I think he shot 60% from the field. So Caleb Martin completely outplaying Jaylen Brown is something that floored me. I had no thought process that was going to happen.
Did not see that.
Did not see that.
That on your bingo
Go
card.
ahead, Tone. Yeah.
I'm sorry. There was a show. Chris actually just tagged me in it. Caleb Martin. So the question was, once Tatum went down, was the game plan to send Jaylen Brown to his left? Caleb Martin said, no, that was just the game plan the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And that just gets into, like, can you really give a guy who can't dribble with his left $300 million? But that is a completely different plan. They executed it to perfection. And my last note is, I'm glad Jason Tatum garnered enough respect from Eric Spoelstra to have to run doubles on him in the fourth and run a zone on him. Yeah. And I'm proud of the player that he's become. And a lot of people are like kind of grilling him for, like, he was just in a lose-lose. Like, oh, I either don't play because I'm hurt and I don't got that Mamba mentality, or I go out there and I'm a shell of myself. But I'm just happy to see that. Like, I think he'll be the best player on a championship team one day. And he balled this series. Outside of the game 3 was a bunch of trouble, but overall, I was proud of him. But this Heat team, they've definitely earned it, and this series is going to be awesome.
Yeah, it is. And this Heat team is incredible. The only other thing, I'm going to put this to bed, Celtics Heat, but I did not foresee number one Caleb Martin out playing JB. I did not foresee the Heat taking 3 out of 4 in Boston. That was shocking to me. Now, I'm telling you, Denver fans, it can absolutely happen to you. So what I want to do, Kelsey, I'm going to swing it to you real quick. Let's talk a little Nuggets Heat. Let's start with the Nuggets. There's been some discourse around Denver that they're a boring team. They're a boring team to cover. I want to hear your thoughts, not only on that discourse, but do you even agree with it?
No, that's silly to agree with. What gets them the stickler is the fact that Jokic doesn't jump over a phone book, the fact that Jokic doesn't run like a gazelle, the fact that Jokic isn't doing what Giannis is doing, but he's doing it better and more efficiently and at a 2-time former MVP clip. Let's not kid ourselves what we're seeing right now. We're seeing the revolution of a big man in all the facets of the game. Say what you will about Denver being a small market. Say what you will about them being boring. The only thing bad about Denver is their fans. Hands down, their fans. I cannot stand them for the life of me. I grew up out west. I've dealt with enough of them. I dealt with enough Nuggets fans. As a Kings fan, I don't like them. They just... they don't. There's nothing that I get along with their fans. But the team itself, far from boring. I mean, if you sit there and watch this team, it is the best basketball played today from an X's and O standpoint, I think, anywhere else. You have Jamal Murray not giving you statistics, but running a point system that is an actual point guard. This is the actual point guard we've actually grown up. All of us grew up watching these point guards. Jamal Murray is doing exactly what a point guard should do, which is run your offense and just make the right play. He doesn't have to give you 30. I don't care if he gives me 30. Now, when he gives me 30, I love it. I absolutely am in love with every single moment of that. But he doesn't have to. And Jokic, look, you can't say enough about Jokic at the end of the day. But then there's an unsung hero, and that's Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is not getting the love this man deserves. He grew up. He let his hair go into the fro. You know, it's looked fantastic as he's going, and he's running the break. He's stopping shots. I don't know if anybody perceived Aaron Gordon as this type of player. This is what I've always thought him to be, a kind of a great asset to a team who has a 1 and a 2. Add him as a third option, a fourth option. You're getting the best Aaron Gordon. He plays great defense. So, no, first of all, this Nuggets team is not boring. Anybody who says that, you're biased, East Coast bias, West Coast bias, whatever it is, Laker bias, so be it. But yeah, they can't hate on Jokic just because he can't jump over a phone book at this point.
Hey, Kelsey, I think you're pandering to me. You're making me feel good. I'm an Arizona man. So I got Zeke Naji. I got Aaron Gordon that I'm hoping get some rings here and get some
We're not even talking about Naji yet. Naji, man, that dude, up and coming.
Yeah, hopefully. So, Chris, I want to get to you. What are some of your favorite storylines here with this Nuggets team? Obviously, Kelsey touched on Yoke. He touched a little bit on AG. I think there's some other great stories like MPJ and what he's been through, Bruce Brown. Anything else you want to provide there?
So I want to kind of share this with y'all because I've been thinking about this for a minute. And on the point of the Nuggets being a boring team. So I look at them as almost like the Suns when they had Nash and Amari. Now, it doesn't make sense when I say that, but it's like inverted, where Jokic is your Nash and Murray's like your Stoudemire, in the sense of Jokic makes everybody else better and he maximizes their talents. You get Bruce Brown able to cut more, you get MPJ to get open shots. Jamal Murray plays more and more free. And it was just new. It's new to people to see that. Like, it was new to see that 7-second off. I think it's new. So I think that's why people think it's boring. When they see it for 2 or 3 more years and they actually get national televised games more often, I think people will warm up to it. But I just want to share that because I had to share it with somebody. So the second one, I think the big storyline for me is Bruce Brown and KCP. Those are the 2 players I like the most to make a big impact, like unsung style. Only because I think Bruce Brown's a perfect role player. Kind of like Martin is perfect for the Heat. He's a perfect role player. He does everything to do, cut, pass, screen, play defense. And he goes along with Aaron Gordon and all those other guys who do the dirty work. And I think KCP is on a revenge tour because he what he did to the Lakers. He's been really, really good. Not only making shots, but just being active and being a disruptor. So I think that is what the Heat haven't faced a lot of in this playoff run. Like, somebody just going to disrupt them and kind of like really match the fire and intensity, but at a different level, like offensively, like the Nuggets can. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to this series. I'm looking for the role players to be the bigger impacts. I mean, we know what Jokic is going to be able to do. A Jokic off game is 20, 10, and 8. So if he has 7 off games, he could still win Finals MVP. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the role players do in this space.
I'm with you, Tone. I want to get to a big matchup, and I want to get your thoughts first. Kelsey, you had mentioned Bam, MIA, doesn't stand for Miami. It's right now it's missing in action for Bam, and he's going to go up against Jokic. Tone, handicap that matchup for me. What do you expect to see? What does Bam need to do to improve? I don't think you can find a better player than Jokic right now. Bam, you could argue, was the Heat's worst real contributor in the ECF.
If Bam, one thing he could do is pray to God. Because if I thought the first 2 series for the Nuggets, they didn't like DeAndre Ayton, like Jokic said, like a couple of years ago, Ayton gave him a lot of trouble, and then he gave Ayton 53, and then he's heading into Anthony Davis, who has been like a defensive juggernaut on like every single night. His offense wasn't there. He was inconsistent up and down on offense, but defense, I mean, like I think he was heading into the conference finals with over like 30 like blocks and steals combined. It was insane. Bam does have a like length and quickness that I guess could help elsewhere, like with Aaron Gordon or like Michael Porter Jr. maybe, but like I don't necessarily think speed or quickness or like the length is really going to matter with Jokic. One, because he also has length. He's also very tall, but he's so unorthodox that it's a tough guy to even guard. Like it's not a matter of like getting the timing down with guys like herky jerky guys like him. Luka's like that. Prime James Harden was that way. Um, I don't know. The best thing he could do is I guess try to tire him out. But this guy's on like an insane like Hall of Fame level run right now, just in terms of his personal stats and the success that he's finding with it.
Yeah, I think in that matchup, look, I'm not Eric Spoelstra, who is a wizard, but I'm almost at the point where I'm like, Bam, I don't even need you focusing on offense, because if you focus 100% on defense, and he is a great defender, but you then get into foul trouble, am I supposed to sit here and watch this series with a straight face or a game with a straight face and see Cody Zeller try to stick Nikola Jokic? I cannot do it. I cannot do it. Kelsey, what do you see with this matchup? What does Bam need to do to really put his fingerprints on this matchup in this series?
Go guard somebody else. That's number one. Plain and simple, go guard somebody. And I'm not even kidding. Like, I actually think Eric Spoelstra will put Jimmy Butler on Jokic at some point in time in this series as a shutdown. It may be a whole game. It may be a whole quarter. I don't know what the answer is, but I think Eric Spoelstra will put Jimmy on him, whether it's in that zone matchup and have him as that centerpiece of that zone matchup or whatnot. But I seriously don't think Bam is the answer, because Bam on paper, if Super Bam shows up, like Bam from the USA national team shows up, who gives you 13 and 10 every single night, it gives you 20 and 10. If that guy can show up, he's a discount Dwight Howard, which is perfect. That's the one thing that Jokic has never figured out, is that type of guy. But we haven't seen that Bam. That Bam doesn't exist right now in our eyes. And I don't. If I'm the Heat, if I'm Spoelstra, I'm not planning on that being the case. So my answer to how Bam covers them, just don't. Like, just go play your game, play your offense, go cover Aaron Gordon, go cover MPJ. He can handle MPJ. I'm sorry, but Michael Porter Jr. is not he's not the number one type of thing that everybody thought he was coming out of college. Obviously, due to the injury, maybe that's the case. But he is slow enough that Bam can keep up with him. And mind you, Bam is not a slow person in general. So, but I do think Jimmy might be the answer as far as how you stop. And mind you, stop is still giving you 20, 10, and 5 at the bare minimum here. But that might be how you get how you get Jokic off of his game just enough. Just throw something completely off the wall at him. And that's the only answer I got, is like, how do you stop Jokic a little bit? That might be the only case.
So yeah, Chris, I mean, is it a case then of let Jokic get his, limit the others? Because the Celtics couldn't limit the others on the Heat. Can the Heat limit the MPJs? Well, I don't even know if he's another, but KCP getting red hot, Bruce Brown getting hot, maybe even Christian Brown coming in and giving you some decent minutes. I don't know. Can the Heat afford to say, Jokic, do your thing? We're going to focus on the others.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking the game plan's got to be. Tone can tell you I'm a big fan of Bam as far as defense goes. I think he's defensive player of the year every year because he guards 1 through 5. I know that's a stretch, but in real life, like, I agree 100%. Leave him off Jokic. I think they should take the approach where you have him in the help, kind of like Lakers tried with AD. You try to kind of have him in the help to where when Jokic does finally go up, you have at least a chance to contest it, because I think Tone said it. He's just unorthodox. He has so many fakes and up and unders and actually non-shots that you are going to jump at because it looks like a shot. He has so many ways to score. I think you keep your best defender off of him. But I personally think they're going to play a good portion of zone just because the Heat are smaller. And that's a little risky because the Nuggets are probably, outside the Celtics, probably the best shooting team that they could face. So it's just really difficult. And I think the thing with Jokic, I've said this before, I think you want Jokic to give you 60 and 10 instead of 25, 12, and 15. Because his 15 assists, that means Brown's got 15, KCP's got 12, Jamal Murray might have 30. Now you're looking at 130 to 100. Now you're looking at why you're down 30 points. You just found out why. So I think you might just have Jokic just, yeah, like you said, just here, you go do what you're going to do. We got to keep the others away. We got to keep the backdoor cuts, the lazy things, the things that other teams weren't able to stop. They have to stop those. And I think it's your best chance, man. Just got to let Jokic just do him and hope you can stop everybody else.
Again, that Heat zone defense was menacing against the Celtics. I don't know if they're going to have that much success, though, against a Jamal Murray, against an MPJ, against a KCP, against a Bruce Brown when he gets hot, right? So I would just be wary of that zone if I was the Heat defense, because, I mean, I swear only the Celtics can leave their 2 worst shooting performances of the entire season for Game 6 and Game 7. And that's exactly, like, the Nuggets aren't going to shoot 21%. from three. So, Tone, I want to focus a little bit now, though, on the Heat side of things. Jimmy Butler, what I found really interesting in his play in the Eastern Conference Finals is that it was very polarized. In the first three games, he's getting to his spot easy, mid-range, splap in your face, right? That's the first three games, and he dominated pace of play, physicality, everything, okay? Games, I think 4 through 6, he was trying to get to those spots, and then he would just start throwing pump fakes, which made no sense. Celtics stayed down on it, and you saw limitations in his production. And I was really, really shocked to see him kind of timid and trying to play this pump fake basketball. And then in Game 7, that switched. He went back to his aggression. He shot the ball with confidence, coming off screens, hit a couple threes as well. So I ask you, Tone, what Jimmy Butler are we going to be getting for this series?
Well, he's also going to be facing some pretty strong wing defenders. He's going to be facing like a Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon, KCP. So he is going to be getting these strong wing defenders again this series. I think it's just going to come down to is Caleb Martin going to step up again? Is Gabe Vincent going to replicate his New York series? Will Bam Adebayo come out from the shadows? And what I think from that 4 to 6 game stretch, what I saw personally was just like the other JB, Jaylen Brown, Jimmy does not want to go to his left. The difference is that if they're setting him that way, he's not going to force it and turn it over. He's just going to get the ball out of his hand, get to a different spot, and start over, because that's what smart players do. I think we'll get the aggressive Jimmy. I think he knows there are several guys on that team that are ready to go nuclear at any given time. Like Jamal Murray's been on one for the past 4 games, and then Nikola Jokic is been the best player in the world these playoffs. And then I saw a stat today. Michael Porter Jr. is 80% on effective field goal percentage on catch and shoot shots. 80%. That's unreal. So I think we're going to get a super aggressive Jimmy Butler, a guy who's going to get to the line, not going to be hesitant with the pump fakes. I think that's the type of guy we're going to get if the Heat want to win this. Because look, this Nuggets team is every bit as talented as that Celtics team, but they are way more disciplined. So you can't get away with these late game chokes and these like desperation bombs to try to get 10 points in a one shot. So I think we're getting an aggressive Jimmy but I mean, if we do get the other one, then he will trust his teammates. Whether those teammates are going to come through or not, time will tell.
Kelsey, what type of Jimmy Butler do you think we're going to see? And let's limit it here, because I think this is going to go 6 or 7 games. I truly do. But let's say in the first 2 games here in Denver, where everyone's going to be talking about altitude. They just came off of a 6-game semis, 7-game conference finals. What do you see with Jimmy Butler tomorrow night in Game 1 and then even Game 2?
Oh, we're going to see killer Jimmy. Hands down. This is going to be Jimmy McBuckets all over again. It's just, or actually he trademarked Himmy Buckets recently, so that's the new one now, Himmy Buckets.
Let me tell you something. I cannot imagine there's a long line of people trying to trademark Himmy Buckets. Good for Jimmy, but come on now.
I didn't think anybody wanted to trademark Taco Tuesday, but then we had LeBron and now it's Taco Bell, so what do I know? But I think at this point in time we're gonna see killer Jimmy. I don't think he has a choice. You go to Denver, the big one thing I maybe it's why I hate Denver fans. I don't know. They're loud. They're obnoxious. Ball Arena is a pain in the butt for anybody to play at. Not only because of the altitude, but because of the fans. They are absolutely rambunctious. They are probably one of the more underrated fan bases in the league as far as just making noise and being obnoxious and getting people's heads. So you have no choice if you're Jimmy. You can't rely. I still won't say you can't. You shouldn't rely on some of your younger players like Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, these guys that haven't been there before. Although, don't get me wrong, they're undrafted free agents. At this point in time, nothing phases them. They're just putting up shots anyways. But I just don't think don't do it. Don't risk it. Go home to Miami where they're comfortable, and then you can go back to being passive, Jimmy. But right now, I think you see killer Jimmy in these first 2 games. I don't see any way around it. And this dude is, I mean, he's lost every time he's had a chance. So he's ready to try to win something. So he's coming out, guns blazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And he's got that finals experience, albeit in the bubble. Save whatever thoughts you have on the bubble, but it's finals experience still. Duncan Robinson as well. Chris, do you think Jimmy's going to come out guns blazing and basically play like he did in game one, where he was a maestro of the Eastern Conference Finals? Or do you think he's going to take a little bit of time? Maybe not his own decision. Maybe the Nuggets play such good defense on him that they make it uncomfortable for Jimmy. What do you think?
I think it's going to be fourth quarter Jimmy. And the reason I say that is because in Heat games in the fourth quarter, Jimmy does everything. Like first 3 quarters, he kind of chilling. Like Kyle Lowry, you could run the offense. Bam, we could run the offense through you. Fourth quarter comes, Jimmy gets the ball on the left or right side of the court. You throw it right here. Everybody cuts. You try to get your open shots, but we'll figure it out from here. And I think that'll be the aggression that we'll see. Even though he doesn't have to get 40, but he'll have the ball in his hands to make the plays. And I think that's the Jimmy that honestly the Heat need, because in reality, the way that the Nuggets play, Jamal Murray's the point guard, but he's still 6'5". So the bigger you can be at any point in time for the Heat, I think it works to their advantage. Like Jimmy really playing point guard-ish, like have him as the point forward, I think is going to be the best thing you can do. And I think it makes the Denver defense really have to figure out, do they want to focus on Jimmy or do we want to focus on the others? And I think you put a different different look out there. But Mike Malone's a smart enough coach to figure it out. But I think you'll get Jimmy, give me the ball and we'll figure it out. Run everything off me. I don't think it'll be as many Bam dribble handoffs to Duncan Robinson and Strus. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's if that's stuff you do at home, like you said, those are game 3, game 4 things. Game 1 is going to be I think especially Jimmy. Let me see how this is going to work out. Let me fill it out and run everything through me.
Yeah, and I think to marry both of your points there, those plays that you run for Duncan Robinson, Max Strus, and it being at home, it goes said a million times. Role players play better at home. Right. And so that's when you try and do that in South Beach. Go ahead, Kelsey.
So I just want to throw one thing out there. If that is the play, though, because if you saw it during the Lakers game, that high screen and roll handoff to Austin Reeves killed it. That was an absolutely fantastic play for the Lakers because they could play off of that with AD. They could play off that with LeBron, but mostly Austin was always wide open. You look at the Heat, they're built for this exact same thing. So if you want to take advantage of that, if you're the Heat, by all means, go ahead. Let Jimmy play passive, but I don't think that's the main game. I don't think you're coming out, but if that's the way they're going to play defense against you, and they're going to leave that Max Strus, that Duncan Robinson alone just enough because it's a slow switch, let him shoot threes all day. I don't care who it is. At this point in time, anybody on the Heat's roster is probably knocking down a 3 at one point in time.
That's true.
So I'm going to take my chances there with that high pick and roll action.
I'm telling you, man, I'm going to have night terrors in the middle of August of Caleb Martin just hitting threes in my eyes, Gabe Vincent, the entire Heat roster. Hey, so why don't we take a quick break here, little commercial break presented by Manscaped, and we'll be right back talking more Heat and Nuggets.
Spring has sprung, and our friends at Manscaped have the best tools for some spring cleaning. They've already helped you tidy up all the nooks and crannies of your body's basement, but this year, Manscaped can help you get the perfect presentation on that beautiful face with the new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. Make sure you look your best this spring by using code BELLYUP20 to get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped.com. It's time to tame your mane with the Beard Hedger Pro Kit. The sun is peeking back out, which means you'll have to show your face in the daylight again. So use the kit to make sure your scruff looks award-winning, whether you got glorious beard flow or some smooth, sleek cheeks. The kit starts off with the Beard Hedger, a waterproof cordless trimmer with a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths, all with one guard. So no more messy drawers full of add-ons. It also comes with the titanium-coated T-blades that are tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to a single-stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Beard Hedger is a high-tech piece of art in a travel-sized package with a long-lasting battery, universal charging, and a strong motor. So what are you waiting for? Save 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUP20 at Manscaped.com. That's 20% off and free shipping with the promo code BELLYUP20 at Manscaped.com. Focus on the face and use the Beard Hedger Pro Kit for the cleanest look in the game.
All right, welcome back to the 2023 NBA Finals Super Show here on Belly Up. Joined again by the Sideline Summit Show men, Tone Perez, Chris Coulter, Kelsey Coyne joining us from High Low Sports. Really appreciate all you guys here chopping it up, talking Heat Nuggets. Let's get back into it, though. Tone, going into break, I talked about Caleb Martin. I'm not kidding. He is going to haunt me for the next few years or so. And I had a tweet, actually. This was end of game 3, maybe beginning of game 4. I was like, you guys might think I'm joking. And I was, of course, joking. But I was like, you may think I'm joking, but the best players in these entire playoffs are Derek White and Caleb Martin, with Jokic as a as a close third, and then Derek White heroics. Caleb Martin was amazing. Now, of course, I understand Jokic is a beast, but this is all to say, Tone, the others stepped up for the Heat. Okay. And we've heard how many times they're undrafted. Drink every time you hear undrafted, you'll be blacked out, I swear. But Tone, can they continue this type of production, the others for the Heat?
I think they can, because they're almost like taking turns at it. So like round 1, it was like a little bit of sprinkled role player heroics, but it was mostly like Jimmy Butler going nuclear, because you kind of needed that going against Giannis. Round 2, Jimmy kind of wasn't himself. He was kind of like working through the ankle sprain originally, so it was a lot of Gabe Vincent playing well, and then that series kind of got Duncan Robinson finally back into a flow. I think he's been averaging like 11 points per game on, above 40% on 3-pointers, which is very good. He's very important to their success. And then, you get to the conference finals, and now it's Caleb Martin's turn. So I think the role players take turns. Like they're like, hey, if this guy doesn't have it, then, we'll have it. As long as Jimmy and then 2 other guys, are sort of feeling it. I definitely think that these role players can continue to put things together. And certainly what most Celtics fans know, Max Strus did not play well last series. He really didn't. And I fully expected him to play well. I think he'll play a lot better. I think he'll have a lot more opportunities to get plays drawn up for him, like Duncan Robinson. So I expect those two to have very good shooting series. They're going to need it against, like, can Max Strus and Duncan Robinson like equalize KCP and Bruce Brown, at least offensively? I think that will be something to look out for. And then, of course, the continued play of Caleb Martin can definitely happen. He's found a confidence that not many role players get to experience. Like, and Gabe Vincent has hit a confidence that not many guys that find. I definitely see them picking up where they left off in the Celtics series. And if Tyler Hero comes back, that's nobody's going to say no to a dude who a 20 point per game scorer. So that's ain't going to mess up flow, in my opinion. I think that'll just add on to what they have.
I think it's a great point that Tone brings up. So, Kelsey, I want to get your thoughts. Is momentum a hell of a drug? Can these others continue to play well? And the point that I really enjoyed was everyone has their moment. Even Kyle Lowry, no matter how much I want to make fun of Kyle Lowry had a flurry in game 1. Gabe Vincent was hot as hell in game 3. Duncan Robinson on that backdoor cut, man, that's another thing that's going to keep haunting me. Duncan Robinson was really good. I mean, you name all these players. Watch, Kevin Love's going to go vintage 15-8 or something. I don't know.
Oh, God.
Kelsey, can the Heat others continue this?
I thought you were about to pull out Udonis getting a 20-20 game next. That was like the path you were traveling there.
If Udonis couldn't get in game 3, I don't know if he's going to get in at all.
No, that's fair. That's fair. It's funny you mentioned Kyle, playoff Kyle. We all have the same reaction to playoff Kyle. It's just like, how does this guy keep making it as a starting point guard in the league and then plays so poorly in the playoffs for yet another team in the finals? It just doesn't make sense, right? He just keeps doing it. I don't know if it's a hell of a drug, momentum, but I will say that naivety plays a role for a lot of these guys. You look at Caleb Martin, Gabe Vincent, they don't care. What do they have? Like, at this point in time, what do they have to lose? Because they've collected enough game checks to be set for life after being an undrafted free agent. You sit here and look at what they did coming out of Nevada for, Caleb Martin with his twin brother, who, by the way, nobody knows where his twin brother is. If you look it up, you probably have to actually Google that one to even find them. But yeah, it's naivety, momentum, one or the other. Yeah, sure, it's going to work. I also think having a guy like Jimmy, say what you will about his personality, the must-win personality. It's very Jordan-esque. And there's something about that very Kobe-esque. And despite being a tough teammate, it is a whole hell of a lot more comfortable having a guy like that as a safety blanket than to have a guy like LeBron. As much as I respect LeBron's game, I really envy LeBron's game, and I if I'm teaching a kid, I want to teach him like LeBron. You can't do that with Jimmy. Jimmy is the ultimate safety blanket because at the end of the day, whether it's offense or defense, he's got your back, and I think that helps these young guys, these others, if you will, perform so well because at the end of the day, Caleb might miss 6 threes this game, but he's going to hit 4 out of the 6 the next game. Gabe Vincent might, go 0 for 2 this game, no assists. The next game he's going to have 10 points, 5 assists. So it's just pretty insane to watch just having that extra safety blanket. So I don't know if it's momentum or if it's Jimmy, but yes is the answer to your question of is it a hell of a drug? Absolutely, because something's going to work out for this team just having Jimmy as the lead man there.
Yeah, Chris, let me ask you about the others and the role players. I've come to terms, I said it at the beginning of this show, that I've come to terms with Caleb Martin not really being another anymore. He's just a damn good player that I expect to drop like 18 to 20 points. Do you expect that to continue for Caleb specifically? And if not, is there another Heat player that can supplant what Caleb Martin did in the ECF, but instead do it in the finals? Is this all plausible?
Yes. And yes. The only reason I say that is because I think the Heat all year, every year, the next man up mentality starts like game one because Jimmy doesn't play 70 games a season. Tyler Hero sits a lot. They have a lot of players who are injured often. Oladipo's, he's not even playing. He's out. So I think these guys are used to this stepping up. Now, we're watching them now because we don't watch Miami Centennial broadcast to watch them 82 games out the year. But they've been doing this all year for a couple of years now. Like I said, Caleb Martin earned that 3-year, $20 million contract like the year that he got signed by the Heat. So like they've been good for a minute. So I think Caleb can keep it up, but honestly, it's different. Being a basketball player is different when people game plan for you. Because I mean, it kind of snuck up on you the first couple of times. Like, okay, Caleb Martin had 20. Okay, and Cody's on the Hornets, by the way, just because I'm a LaMelo fan, I know that. Just by the way, but Caleb. Like out of nowhere, you just saw him do that, and it's like, okay. Then he does it again, but it's like now Mike Malone's smart enough and not naive enough to understand that you have to game plan for this guy now. So I want to see what he looks like the first 2 games when they've game plan for him, because then I think that opens up Duncan Robinson, that opens up the Strus of the world. It lets Gabe Vincent get back to that space where he was able to just kind of let it fly. And we might see less of Kyle Lowry if that happens. But I just think it'll be really cool to see who steps up. Now, I think Caleb Martin can continue it, but I think it'll show in game 1 and 2 if he can or not. Because, like I said, I think they're going to game plan more for him. It's not going to be just having free range of playing one-on-one all the time, not even seeing a crowd at all, like kind of letting him drive and do as he wants because you're focused on everybody else. He was the second best offensive player in that series for the Heat. So I think at that point in time, you kind of have to game plan for this guy. So I'm interested to see how the first 2 games go.
I want to go around the horn now because, as I said at the beginning, the Nuggets are going to be heavily favored in this series. Tone and Kelsey and Chris, I want you to try and key in on and focus in on something specific that the Heat have to do in order to pull off this series upset. The Heat win this series if blank. Me personally, I think they have to turn the Nuggets over like crazy. I think they got to have active hands in the paint. I think they have to wall up Jokic as best as possible and not give up offensive rebounds. For someone who can't jump over a pair of shoes, I think you said, Kelsey, I forget, that man gobbles up offensive rebounds like crazy. But I think the key for the Heat is turning the Nuggets over and not necessarily getting out in transition, but just adding extra possessions for them and opportunities to score. Tone, I'm going to kick it to you. What do the Heat need to do? What's the biggest thing that you're foreseeing?
If the Heat want to win the series, in my opinion, outside of just like some cool role player like moments, I think one personally consistently is going to have to match Jamal Murray. A couple of series ago, I said if the Nuggets want to beat the Suns, Jamal Murray is going to have to like at least match Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, whoever's going to, be the second man of that series. And this time around, someone's going to have to match him. Jimmy's going to do his very, very best to match Nikola Jokic. And that like Caleb Martin or Gabe Vincent or maybe like a hot Duncan Robinson, someone's going to have to match Jamal Murray because at home he's been nuclear these playoffs. And these first 2 games are going to mean a lot because the Heat haven't got down in a series yet. They haven't had to go into game 3 down 0-2. They haven't had to even 0-1. They haven't been down at all in a series at any point. So they're going to need the role players to, like, cool, do your thing. Someone's going to have to, like, make a jump before our eyes. Like, Caleb Martin needs to continue to put up that, like, 19, 20 points a game, maybe more.
I mean, that was a mind-blowing stat. I didn't even take time to recognize that the Heat have not trailed in a series. I mean, they made quick work of the Bucks, and then 6 against the Knicks, 7. I mean, damn, you're right. That is crazy for an 8 seed. Kelsey, if a Heat fan comes up to you and they say, "I need your advice, man. I need you to tell me what this team needs to do in order to pull this off," what are you telling them?
Go back to 2012. No, I'm kidding. Realistically, I think you just have to. There's 2 ways to look at this. You can look at it as isolating Jokic or interrupting the passing lanes. But mostly it's isolating Jokic is kind of the ideal. We talked about it earlier. How do you stop Jokic? You don't really stop Jokic. You stop the people around him. So what I mean by that is isolating Jokic, preventing those inside-out passing, the passing game that they have perfected so well, that you have Jamal Murray, MPJ, everybody out there on the three-point line just ready and waiting to pull a catch-and-shoot shot. I mean, Tone dropped a stat of 80% on catch-and-shoot shots for Michael Porter Jr. That's an insane stat. Most of those are catch-and-shoot threes. So you look at that, and that's going to be the Heat's key, is figuring out a way to interrupt those passing lanes. Don't let Jokic be the ultimate maestro that we all know he can be, because if you can limit him to under double-digit assists, you have an absolutely fantastic chance of winning this game.
What about you, Chris? What are some keys that you're looking at? Something specific? I mean, you're sitting right next to Eric Spoelstra, Chris Quinn, and then it's you right there. What are some things that you're telling the team, and what do you think the Heat need to do?
2 things. I think they need to make their threes. They have to make threes. They have to stay in this series. They have to make threes. And 2, they have to get to the free throw line. Because the one thing with the Heat, the Achilles heel for the Heat all the time is never them playing hard. It's never their defense. It's never their coaching, never ever their coaching. It's their inability to score sometimes. So they go on those droughts. And the only thing that saves them a lot of times in those droughts is their defense. Now, the reason I say get to the free throw line and make their threes is because this is the first time they play facing a real big that if the game's slowing down and it's going really bad, nobody's making threes, they can throw it into their big man. He can get a shot for himself, he can get a shot for the other players. Now, Giannis was that a little bit. He's a little banged up, so I don't count that. But with Jokic, how unselfish he is, I think they have to slow the game down enough to where they can get to the free throw line, either get Jokic in foul trouble or just slow the game down and get easy points and make threes, because the Heat will go out there and score 90 points every other game. They'll do it if you let them. Like when you see them shoot under like 40% from 3, they probably have 90 points. And they won't beat the Nuggets scoring under 110, I don't think. Like just with how fast the Nuggets play. So I think shooting threes will help that, and slowing the game down the free throw line, that's a good thing that they can do to, kind of subset that.
Let me tell you something, man. I haven't seen the Heat shoot less than 40% in about like a week and a half. All right. So if that does happen, watch, man. Caleb Martin's going to come back down to earth, and every single Celtics fan is going to be so angry. But hey, I want to get your thoughts on this before we head to break. Really dive into this because I think it's super interesting, and we hear this dichotomy in all sports in the postseason quite often. All right, it's the rest versus the momentum. Right. You look at the Denver Nuggets. When was the last time they played? Was it like 9 days ago, 8 days ago? Something crazy like that. I think I saw a tweet saying Jokic is on the couch with like Dorito crumbs on his fingernails, watching the Celtics and Heat absolutely battle it out. I mean, the Nuggets have been well rested. The Heat just went the distance after being up 3-0. So not only is there that physical toll, there's an emotional toll as well. Tone, I'm going to start with you. Rest versus picking up momentum where you left off with the Heat. Where do you see the advantage?
I honestly think with these two type of teams, I think the situations they both find themselves in benefit them. Like the Heat are like kind of just, I saw it on Twitter. They're like winning games with the power of friendship. And it's like, I think I I think in their situation, I think momentum and like not having a whole week off will be very good for them. Because they had trouble turning the ball over. They had trouble with opponents' points off turnovers. They've been getting beat on the glass sometimes. Um, so they don't need to be sit down. Like they don't really need to wake up. Like they're up, they're ready to go. And then, but I do think the advantage does lie with Denver because that 4 game series with LA was probably the most competitive sweep that I saw since last year's Nets Celtics series, where like the point differential was not huge at the end of the series. I'm pretty like it wasn't big at all. Between 4 wins, I don't think it exceeded
It
15
wasn't.
points
Yeah.
total. So like I think like 4 super competitive games of basketball and then a week of rest and then you're given a super veteran coach like Mike Malone a week to I'm pretty sure after game 3 he kind of like had an idea who he's going to play, so maybe he got a head start on scouting the Heat players. uh so I would probably give Denver the advantage, not to mention that Miami, off of that, emotional toll, physical toll, you're about to go play in the highest city in America, and players say that's a real advantage. Hence why the Nuggets have not lost there, like, and they've been in control, uh, in Denver all playoffs. So I'd give the advantage to them, their rest, and then of course their home court advantage.
What say you, Kelsey?
I'm gonna go the other way. I actually think momentum is a bigger buoy at this point in time, where they're all dead tired. You just played an 82 game season. Now say what you will. It's maybe a week's worth of rest, but you just played 4 of the hardest games you've ever played. You look at Jokic; he played the most physical games he has ever played in those last 4 games. So yeah, sure, he maybe gets a week of rest. So he's playing now at 80% compared to his potential 100% if he had played a lighter, less abusive Anthony Davis, on the other side. Like if he played, discount Dwight Howard by chance maybe. But I look at this. I look at momentum because you can't figure out how to win better than by playing more games. As a team, you build chemistry. You build the ability to win unnaturally. I mean, really, just like they talk about luck. Luck is the conflux of preparation and opportunity, right? Well, there's no better way to have preparation and opportunity than to play more games to get that preparation, to get that opportunity, because you're not doing that when you're resting. Mike Malone is not going to run Jokic and Jamal Murray, who has a history of knee injuries, Michael Porter Jr. with a history of back injuries, all these guys out here to have practices every single day or every other day in this 9-game off break. So they're going to be a little rusty game one. I mean, yeah, sure, it might not look good for the Heat at 5,280 feet in the air, but you know what? It's going to be okay in the long run because at the end of the day, these guys are just going to keep playing. Jimmy's going to keep doing what Jimmy does. Jimmy is a momentum freak. He lives off of it. Probably one of the streakiest players historically, as far as just when he gets on a hot streak, he doesn't stop until he stops playing. So it's going to be something to watch. I do think momentum here is going to have the greater odds at the end of the day for the series. Maybe not game 1, but for the end of the series, I think it's going to be momentum wins out.
What about you, Chris? If you're a fan of either of these teams, would you rather your team be rested or would you rather them have come off of an absolute war with your Eastern Conference rival and go into this?
Yeah, I'd say momentum, only for the simple fact that I think Kelsey spoke to it first. The Nuggets probably will be rusty. Like they probably will be. So the Heat coming off 7 tough games, Caleb Martin's going, everybody's going already. That'd be their chance to steal a game in the first one. So if I'm a Heat fan, I definitely want the momentum. I could not care less about the rest. I mean, rest is good, but I mean, like you said, it's role players. Role players do play better at home, but at the same time, role players also play better when they're hot and when they're feeding off the superstar. And that's kind of what they've been doing for the past, 7 games or so. So I think we're able to pick that back up after only a couple of days and not have to sit and not get cold again, but, kind of run that risk of missing more shots than you would have because you're kind of out of rhythm because you set 9 days. Like the Nuggets are going to shoot a lot of threes. Yeah, they're going to be home, but like I said, they're going to be rusty. It's been 9 days. So I think as a fan of the Heat, I love the momentum. And even as the Nuggets, I would be happier if we were coming off maybe a 6-game series where we had 3 days of rest because we could still kind of pick up where we left off. But then again, they have a big guy. We might need the rest. So I think momentum's probably be the one that I choose to kind of win out in this one.
You guys ever move, right? I'm the kind of guy that's like, when I move, I can't do it in installments. I just need to rip the Band-Aid off, go 110%, get all this stuff out of the way as best I can. All right. My wife, on the other hand, is almost like the Nuggets. She's like, let's take a week, a little bit of a break, some rest. And I'm like, I'm never going to be able to get this done. I feel like that's what I'm looking at here between Denver and Miami. And hey, want to welcome in senior writer here at Belly Up, Kevin Wilson. Kevin, how are you doing? We're just chatting a little bit about the dichotomy and the differences here entering this game one, where the Nuggets have been just hanging out for a little bit the past 8 or 9 days, and the Heat haven't even been home since game 6.
I'm doing great. I'm just glad I was able to jump on with you fellas, because I'm in the central time zone over here. So, couldn't get on any earlier than I am, but I'm glad to be here. So, and unlike a lot of people, I am looking forward to this series, and I think we're going to see some good basketball coming up.
Yeah, I think so too. Look, if you're not looking forward to that series, to teach their own. But I don't want to hear about the storylines, anything like that. Like, I think we tune in for good hoops. You're about to see the 2-time MVP, one of the greatest playoff runs we're seeing. Jimmy Butler as well on the other side, an 8 seed, an upstart. I think it's really cool. So we're going to be back after this commercial break, chat a little bit about the coaching matchup, and of course get some predictions before we head on out of here. But first, a message from SeatGeek.
Hey everyone, it's Ryan from No Credentials Required to talk to you about one of our newest partners at Belly Up Sports, SeatGeek. Yeah, live sports is great on television, but the feeling of being at the arena is a priceless experience. That's why our friends at SeatGeek are there to help you find the best tickets at the best prices. Not only can you get tickets to sporting events, but you can also get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, musicals, and more. Search for your desired event now at SeatGeek.com, enter promo code BellyUpSports at checkout, and you save $20 off your first purchase. SeatGeek. Life's an event. We have the tickets.
Kevin, I want to kick it off with you. I want to get your thoughts. Obviously, you just joined here. So in the last series, okay, it was actually pretty much, it was 2 rookie head coaches in the conference finals versus seasoned vets. Darvin Ham, a first-year head coach, going up against Mike Malone, who's proven to be really good. And then, of course, Joe Mazzulla, first-year head coach, going up against who, in my estimation, is going to be a Hall of Famer, Eric Spoelstra, and the best coach in the NBA today. Now we have Spo and Michael Malone going head-to-head. It's tough to say that even in that matchup, Spo doesn't have the advantage. But the gap is certainly shorter. What do you see? What are you anticipating here between Malone and Spo in their cat and mouse game?
Well, it's going to be interesting because I think that you're right, because Eric Spoelstra is one of the great coaches that you'll find, and the Miami Heat are certainly happy that because they almost got rid of him. If you remember, there was a certain superstar that wanted him out. Pat Riley said that'll be no. And so the Miami Heat have turned out to be correct. And so it'll be interesting to me, what exactly does Eric Spoelstra come up with as far as an answer for the Joker, because no one's come up with an answer as of yet. And he's come through some of the great players that we've seen in the NBA to get to this point. Kevin Durant, AD, LeBron, whomever you want to mention, Karl Anthony Towns in the first round, and none of those guys have been able to slow down Josic. So Spoelstra, it'll be interesting to see what exactly he comes up with. It has been suggested that Kevin Love will get some plays, but he's a couple years younger than I am. So it's going to be interesting to see what exactly they come up with to stop him, because no one has. And he's on one of, like you said, one of those historic playoff runs. We've never seen it, especially from the center position. So I want to see what he does against him.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Tone, I'm curious to know your thoughts here. There is a gap in my estimation. First of all, do you see a gap between Malone and Spoelstra? And if so, is it big enough where that could be played as an advantage for the Heat?
No, I think Mike Malone is one of the more underrated coaches in the NBA, and I think he has been for a pretty long time. I thought the last 2 years with a not fully healthy team, he did a pretty good job with his roster, with what he was given with. And kind of the difference between like this series and last series is like the Celtics had all the talent in the world. It's like the thing, it's like you have a bunch of lions led by a sheep, and then you have a bunch of sheep led by two lions on fire in Eric Spoelstra and Jimmy Butler. But now this one, you're kind of just like, it's just like a bunch of lions going at it. I think the coaching gap is close enough to where the or the Nuggets talent can take over. Of course, I do think Spoelstra does have the coaching advantage, so that if a couple Heat players can close the gap, get hot, that's where Spoelstra will be able to take over. But I think the gap is reasonable that Mike Malone can he can make a chess move or two that will give him an advantage in a couple of these games. I think he's gonna have to outcoach Spoelstra in one of these games, especially on the road.
Tone, if podcasting doesn't work out, man, I want you to be a writer of some sort. You're talking about lions on fire, sheep going everywhere, dude. Like this is something I'd read that. I feel like a fifth grader or sixth grader would read that. Kelsey, what do you think about this head coaching matchup?
Yeah, I don't know where anybody gets the fact that Mike Malone is even good enough to hold Eric Spoelstra's jock at this point in time. Eric Spoelstra, 600 win percentage in the playoffs, 596 technically. Mike Malone, sub 500. The only time that coaching matters in the NBA is during the playoffs. Say what you will about any other time. Playoffs and last minute inbounding plays, which is why the Celtics were so good with Brad Stevens. That's also, by the way, I have to ask, does it hurt when you actually gave Spoelstra credit for being a Hall of Fame potential coach? Like, I just have to ask if that hurts at all.
Not at all. Look, I would
just had to clear. I just had to make sure.
He's great. He's great.
I have to make sure Celtics fans, you guys sometimes. But no, seriously, I think Spoelstra at the end of the day is the much better coach, hands down. He's missed the playoffs twice in his career, and you have Mike Malone missing it at his first 5 seasons. Hasn't missed it in 5 straight seasons, but he missed the playoffs in 5 straight seasons. Unfortunately, 2 of those was with the Kings, so maybe I'm a little biased here. That's potentially possible. I don't say it is. It's easy to do your job when you have Nikola Jokic, though. It is not easy to do your job when you have a Jimmy Butler and a mystery Bam Adebayo that you don't know what's going to pop out of the box at any point in time. He could be 20-20 Bam. He could be 10-10 Bam. He could be 5-5. I mean, you just don't know with him. So there's a mystery there that Spoelstra has to deal with X's and O's wise, and he has to figure that out every single night. Whereas on the other side, Mike Malone gets to be like, all right, you're going to give me 30, 15, and 10. Everybody else, just give me 10 points. We got ourselves a great chance. And that's the big difference with the coaching side of things is the X's and O's side is always going to go to Spoelstra. And I think if this gets down to that nitty gritty, this gets down to that battle of minds, Spoelstra hands down is gonna beat Mike Malone every single time.
Chris, you in the same boat there?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Spoelstra. I mean, I'm a Brian fan, so Brian didn't win until he got with Spoelstra, so I give a lot of credit to Spo. But kind of like Coach said, I think just Spo's a king of adjustments. I'll say that. I think he doesn't wait too long for adjustments. He's good at out of timeout plays. Like Spo's good at the stuff that really matters in the playoffs. And I think Mike Malone's good too. I think he's good. But I think his talent is what's been carrying him, making him look a lot better than what he is. It's just my opinion. And I think Spoelstra's making the talent look better than what they are because he's putting them in the places to succeed. He doesn't have Duncan Robinson doing pick and rolls. Doesn't have Caleb Martin running pick and rolls. He's keeping them in the spaces where they can be successful. He's monitoring minutes. He's playing players when they should be played. Like he's adjusting to the adjustments. And I think Spo's he's just a superior coach. So I think the edge goes to the Heat in that category for sure.
I'm really looking forward to that chess match though, because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to remind me a little bit of the Tibbs Spo chess match. Look, Tibbs is not as good as Spo. I'm fully aware that he's the best coach in the NBA, but Michael Malone is on a heater these last couple seasons. I'm looking forward to it entering the series. Go ahead, Kelsey.
I'll say I like the comparison to Tibbs there for Malone. That's actually that is a very fair comparison to what Malone is on the trajectory for. Is that really defensive minded type of guy? He on the defense side, great guy, great coach. Like there's no doubt about it. I just worry if you get into an inbound offensive side of the things, you can't rely on Jokic and Jamal Murray to bail you out with these crazy shots that are behind their heads. Like that can't just be the case every time. So I don't know. That's where I worry about it. Whereas Spoelstra, both sides of the ball. You talk offense, defense. He is the king of those X's and O's type of situations.
Preparation as well. I mean, the guy's a stud. But I will tell you, Casey, even not even being a Nuggets fan, I know how much Malone preaches defense, because in that third to fourth quarter intermission, when they get the sideline questions, all he talks about is defense. It could be Jamal Murray going off for 27. He's like, we need to have our best defensive fourth quarter of the entire season. And I kind of respect that.
We're up by 40. I still need a little better defense from my guys. Like, whoa, you kept them to 60 in 3 quarters. Calm down there, coach. No.
Not good enough.
Yeah, no.
Hey, I just got a couple more items that I want to touch with you guys. This is a pretty straightforward question, and I'll start with you, Kevin. We're going to see Tyler Hero this series?
I had first heard that potentially he could be back as soon as the third game, but now I'm hearing that possibly it couldn't be till game 7, which means, of course, it would have to go that far. And so I don't think if you're Miami, you can attach your wagon, so to speak, to the fact that he's going to be there. You have to plan as if he isn't. And it's worked so far. It would be easier if he was there, but I don't think that you can, he's not going to ride in as, Superman with the red cape and everything. And if he were to do that, then I guess you could go back to the New York Knicks and all that, and Reed and everything else. But if that happens, that would just even ramp up the series even further. So I'm kind of hoping he does get back, because I want to see a healthy team versus a healthy team. But if you're Miami, maybe keep that in the back of your mind. But you've got to play with what you have, and so just get the series so he could possibly, get into a game. But before he's here, you just got to go with what you have.
Yeah, look, I don't think the Heat are a better team without him. But right now, if all you got to do is win 4 games and you're playing this well without him, it's certainly something that Eric Spoelstra is going to have to think about if he is indeed healthy. Tone, what about you? If Tyler Hero is able to come back, do you insert him?
I certainly would. And that's not to kill anyone's momentum going on. But imagine that, let's say Duncan Robinson's shots or example, Max Strus is not, like I said before, he's not having a good playoffs. Imagine you simply take out Max Strus and you input a 20-point per game score. Let's say he's even 80% of himself. That's still something. Now, of course, Kevin said, there's so many mixed reports on when he really will be back. And there was a funny thing last series where people were like, oh, Jimmy's just letting them win so Tyler can get healthy. I'm like, well, the finals has a set start date regardless. So it doesn't matter if Jimmy's doing this psycho comic book villain type of thing. But I mean, look, if he's healthy, I think Spo's got a plan. Maybe it's to ease him in with 15 minutes a game, maybe plug him into spots where you just need offense, or maybe last 2 minutes of a quarter, you really want to finish strong, throw him in there and tag it with a zone to just throw the Nuggets off for 2 minutes, make them go into the half or go into the fourth quarter like a little shaken or something. I think a 20-point per game scorer has a spot if he is at least 80% of himself. I think Spoelstra's got a plan.
Kelsey, do you foresee Tyler Hero coming back in this series at all?
Projected game 3 is what he's at right now, so we'll see if he actually comes back at all. Game 3, when they say projected game 3, that's it's a 50-50 chance he makes this series, right? That's usually what it ends up being. Look, at the end of the day, we've talked about Kyle Lowry enough in this show. I don't really want to keep bringing him up, but I'm going to keep bringing him up at this point in time. Would I rather have a Kyle Lowry or a Tyler Hero out here when Jimmy's taking his rest? I'm taking Tyler Hero. I'm sorry, Kyle. I love you, but no. I want points. I want production. Do I want Kevin Love or do I want Tyler Hero? I'm going to take Tyler Hero. Barely. That's a push, though. Do I want Haywood Highsmith or do I want Tyler Hero? I'm taking Tyler Hero. So, when you break down the rotation for the Heat, in that second unit, absolutely he replaces a lot of guys when Jimmy goes and takes his rest. But I don't think I insert him with your full starting 5. I think if you do see him, it's going to be in that just there's no focus, there's no offense. The ball is in your hands. Go do your thing. Just call a high screen and roll and see what you can do. And that's what he does best. I mean, attacking the basket, taking pull-up threes off the dribble. That's what he does. That's his best game. So just allowing him to go out there and play like he's on the playground might be the best thing, not just for Tyler Hero getting back healthy, but for the Heat as well. And it could be that kind of curveball to throw the Nuggets at the end of the day. That maybe that is the oomph that gets you over the line. But I definitely don't see him with the first team. But if he does come back, it's going to be that second tier unit.
Certainly going to be a great storyline to watch. Chris, you had mentioned sometimes with the Heat, they go dry on offense. Tyler Hero can certainly help out with that. Do you project him back in the lineup, and how does that impact both the Heat and the Nuggets? I mean, this could negatively affect the Heat potentially as well. How do you see this playing out?
I have mixed feelings about it because I like Tyler Hero as a player, but I think if he does come back now especially with a broken hand for a person whose main thing is scoring, even if it's not his shooting hand, it's almost like when he gets in, you kind of know what he's in for already. So it's almost like a gadget player almost. Like if you were to use him in the high screen roll most of the time, you know it's going to go to him because he can't play as many minutes because of rest or whatever the case may be. So I think it would be a little risky. But I mean, at the end of the day, as an 8th seed, what do you really have to lose if he's healthy? So that's why I'm so mixed about it. But I think if he's healthy, I think he plays because, like you said, for the second unit, it's difficult to say no to Tyler Hero when you're playing literally your 13th and 14th guy, like, at crucial points. So I think you have to play him if he's healthy, but I think it's just going to be risky. But I mean, what has been risky for the Heat over the last month or so? So, I mean, why not take a chance?
Well, Spo will go to the local LA Fitness like he did in Boston or whatever it was. I'm sure he'll sign some guys to a 10-day and they'll give him 15 and 5. That's what he does. All right, gentlemen, let's get on out of here. But before we do that, I got to get series predictions. All right, I need a winner and in the amount of games. Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
All right, so I'm going to say that I'm going to go Nuggets, and as a Jazz fan, that is supposed to make me sad because they're in the same division, but it doesn't. They play the game the way that you're supposed to play it, and they have the advantage in just about every area in this series, I think. And I like to use the analogy that Miami, they've been playing so far above their heads that their noses are going to bleed. And it hasn't happened yet, but if it were to happen, up in the thin air is where it's finally going to come. They're far above where anyone thought they would be. Reality is going to come in, and I think that the Nuggets are going to win this series, and they're going to take them out in 5 games.
Tone, how about you?
I agree with Kevin. Yesterday on our show, I said I will take the Nuggets in 5 games, and I'm going to take Nikola Jokic to be my Finals MVP. He is like the biggest odds by far ever to win a Finals MVP, and that includes those Warriors that were like minus 1,000 favorites to beat LeBron's Cavs, obviously because you had KD and Steph splitting those odds. Yeah, I think Denver has a clear advantage at home. I think they'll be able to take one on the road as this dismantled, undisciplined Celtics team was able to get 2 on the road. Obviously, won by the skin of their teeth. But I think Jokic and company can go on the road. Probably, I would say, win game 4, and then you're heading back home with a 3-1 lead. And then you just close things out at home. I usually like to pick winners of series, ending things at home. Ending things on the road can be very difficult, which the Heat have done. But yeah, I'm going to take Nuggets at 5. Nikola Jokic, my Finals MVP. Last little thing, Michael Porter Jr. has plus 13,000 odds to win Finals MVP. If you just want to throw like $10 on that, hey, anything can happen. He could just get hot for like a 5-game stretch and maybe make some cash. Very, very unlikely though. Hence why it's that high. So.
Well, you know what? That's good that you threw it out there. Think about the young men and women this time 8 years ago today before the first Warriors Cavs series, and they were like, hey, well, these are the odds for Andre Iguodala. And it hit. It hit. So who knows? We might be seeing MPJ getting that. How about you, Kelsey? Who wins this series? How many games?
Before I do that, I'm going to go and so everybody out there, go to DraftKings.com, use BellyUpSports to sign up. Put $1 on that 12 plus 130,000 odds or 13,000 odds, win $130. Just a little shout out to one of our sponsors out there. But yeah, if I'm going the other way. I like I said, I think momentum is the key here, and I do think they take game one. I do think the Heat do take game one here in Denver, and I think that's going to be the difference maker. It's going to set up. Don't get me wrong. I think I also on the flip side do think that there's a possibility that the Nuggets can take one back from Miami, but I think by the time it gets to Game 6. You're going to see the heavy legs from a team that's just sat for 9 days, who plays at altitude, having to travel from altitude to sea level, back to altitude, back to sea level, who doesn't normally do that in their own conference. Like most of their teams in their own division, they don't travel that much. They travel in the mountains. So it's going to be one of those situations that I don't see them really panning out for a 7-game period. So give me 6 games for the Heat, and Jimmy finally gets it. And also, if Jimmy doesn't win it, I don't know if anybody's prepared to see that angry Jimmy after the playoffs on any podcast.
Heat and 6, huh?
Yeah,
Not going the distance. Heat and 6. I like it. All right. How about you, Chris?
A wise man once told me that you don't believe the team is going to win if you pick them in 7. Shout out to Tone. So I'm going to pick the Nuggets in 6. Only because I really think it's going to go 7. But I have to have faith, as I was told by a wise man. So I'm going to pick Nuggets in 6, only for the simple fact I think, like I said, the one thing that they haven't faced yet, being the Heat, is a dominant big, let alone a dominant passing big, let alone a dominant rebounding big. Like they haven't faced anything like that yet. So I think it'll be really difficult for them to adjust to. And I think they're going to maybe steal game 1. I do. I really do think they're going to steal game 1. But for some reason, I think the Nuggets are it's just their time to win. I think Nikola's story is a little bit better than Jimmy's as far as like 2-time MVP. He got snubbed this year for it. Everybody's doubting him. I'm putting a lot of air quotes in here because I don't think that's real. But I mean, NBA script. So I think the Nuggets are going to win in 6, though.
It's actually the Wendy's script this year, by the way, if anybody hasn't seen that. The spicy nuggets in the Wendy's script.
I didn't.
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
Wendy, if you go check out Wendy's Twitter, they put out a whole thing about a script so they could talk about spicy nuggets for 7 games. Because obviously Heat Nuggets.
This is their perfect marketing opportunity right there. And Chris, look, you put all that in air quotes. That's what happens when you listen to Mike Malone for the last week, basically saying nobody's given us any respect, which to a degree is correct. But at some point, I'm just like, yo, man, I'm not even talking about the Lakers anymore. I don't care.
I had to listen to Mike Malone tell people up 3-0 that nobody thinks the Nuggets are going to win. I was like, on the contrary, brother, they actually think you're going to win the next game, which you are. So
I don't know what Mike Malone's been talking about. They have been the favorite in every single game of these playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to be the heavy favorites here in the finals. I promise you, boys, I'm going to give you my prediction now. I'm going to go alongside Chris here. I'm going to go Nuggets in 6. But you know what, Kelsey? I do think the Heat win game 1. They're going to come out with that energy still somehow. There's zombies, really. They are. They're not dead. They're going to come out guns blazing. I don't think the Nuggets are going to be very sharp to begin, and that's going to be enough for Jimmy Butler and the Heat to methodically put them away in game 1. Nuggets will come out in game 2. They'll split it at home, and then I think they get game 3. From there, then it's going to be some very competitive matchups, but I do think the Nuggets finish this off in 6. I think they celebrate in Miami almost like another European great did for his first title in Dirk Nowitzki. Maybe I'm too much of a storyteller here, but I also agree with Chris in the sense that, there's battles that you got to climb, right? I'm a big believer in some scar tissue, and the Nuggets don't have that yet. The Heat do with Jimmy Butler. So that's given me a little pause that he can actually overcome this. But I'm going to go Nuggets. I'm going to go the 2-time MVP. I'm going to go with the best player in the NBA right now, Nuggets in 6. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate you all joining me. This was a lot of fun. One little nugget I want to give you, no pun intended here. Christian Brown, Colin Gillespie, they are looking to add to their trophy rooms. All right. As a college basketball guy, Christian Brown is a year removed from winning a national title at Kansas, and Gillespie has one at Villanova. They're both super young. It'd be incredible if they got both of them.
Add that to Jamal Murray's McDonald's All-American trophies that he has in his closet.
Yeah.
Or Jokic's constant, Real Madrid he played for, or did he just come straight over?
I don't know. He's got to have
can't
some
even remember.
He's got to have some horse, trophies doing whatever he does there in Serbia. So, gentlemen, I appreciate the time. This is going to be a great series. We'll keep in touch. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you next time. Enjoy the series. Thanks, boys.
See you guys.
Thanks for having me.